Good morning, everyone. I am Vallen Tarayao, the first presenter of Chapter 4, which is deontology. So, before we proceed, please let me introduce to you my group members. Of course, me, Vallen Tarayao, the first presenter. Second presenter is James Pardella Nicolas. Third presenter is Rocelyn Quilang. And the last presenter is Marjorie Paragua. There are three objectives of this chapter. After reading this chapter, you should be able to first, discuss the basic principle of deontology. Second, apply the concepts of agency and autonomy to one's moral experience. And third, evaluate actions using universalizability tests. In deontology, there are three main subtopics, which is duty and agency, autonomy, and universalizability. Content focus. During the flag ceremony of that Monday morning, January 24, 2017, the mayor of Baguio City awarded from the city government that commended Reggie Kabututan for his extraordinary show of honesty in the performance of their duties or practice of profession. Reggie is a taxi driver who just 3 days before the awarding drove his passenger, an Australian named Trent Shields, to his workplace. The foreigner, having little sleep and was ill the previous day, left his suitcase inside the taxi cab after he reached his destination. The suitcase contained a laptop, passport, and an expensive pair of headphones, which Trent claimed amount to around 260,000 pesos. Consider closely the moment when Reggie found that Trent had left a suitcase in his taxi cab. If we were to return the suitcase, there was no promise of an award from the city government of Baguio and no promise of a reward from the owner. What if he took the suitcase and sold its contents? That could surely help him supplement his daily wages. Life as a taxi driver in the Philippines is not easy. A little extra cash would go a long way to put food on the table and to pay tuition fees for his children. So this is the situation, which is Reggie returned the suitcase with 260,000. Reggie returned the suitcase not for the reward. It is because it is the right thing to do. So even though he can take it for personal and family expenses and sell the contents of the suitcase for their daily needs, he didn't take it and return to the owner because it is the right thing. Reggie could be holding on this moral conviction as the principle of action, or he believed that it is his duty to do the right. Duty and agency. Deontology. Deontology is a category of normative ethical theories that encompasses any theory which is primarily concerned with adherence to certain rules or duties. So, deontology is a ethical theory that states it is possible to determine the rightness or wrongness of actions by examining actions themselves without focusing on the consequences of that action. Duty-based ethics teaches that some acts are right or wrong because of the sorts of things they are, and people have duty to act accordingly, regardless of the good or bad consequences that may be produced. Some kinds of action are wrong or right in themselves, regardless of the consequences. So, duty, when our motives is determined by a principle recognized by reason rather than the desire for any expected consequences or emotional feelings which may cause to act the way we do. The will is defined as which provide the motives for our action. Agency. Agency is the ability to make ethical decisions based on what is right or wrong. The capacity can be found in individuals or collective entities like businesses or healthcare institutions. So, agency is assigned only to those can be held responsible for the actions. Agency is a person who has the ability to discern right from wrong and to be held accountable for his or her own action. Agency has moral responsibility not to cause unjustified harm. Next presenter is James Nicolas.
Duty and agency. The moral theory that evaluates actions that are done because of duty is called deontology. Deontology comes from the Greek word deon, which means being necessary. Hence, deontology refers to the study of duty and obligation. The main proponent of deontology is Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804. He was a German Enlightenment philosopher who wrote one of the most important works on moral philosophy, Groundwork Towards a Metaphysics of Morals, 1785. In this work, Kant brings our attention to the fact that we human beings have the faculty called rational will, which is the capacity of act according to the principles that we determine ourselves. To consider the rational will is to point out the difference between animal and person. On one hand, animals are sentient organisms. Sentience, meaning an organism has the ability to perceive and navigate its external environment. Insofar as dogs and carabaos are sentient organisms, we do not see them bumping into trees and walls unless their senses are weak. Animals constantly interact with their surroundings. This is also true as humans. We are also sentient, thus both animals and persons interact in and with the world, reacting to internal stimuli and internal impulse to survive and thrive. On the other hand, people are also rational. Rationality consists of the mental faculty to construct ideas and thoughts that are beyond our immediate surroundings. This is the capacity for mental abstraction, which arises from the operations of the faculty of reason. Thus, we have the ability to stop and think about what we are doing. We can remove ourselves mentally from the immediacy of our surroundings and reflect on our action and how such action affect the world. We can imagine a different and better world and create mental image of how we interact with other people in that world. In the same way, an architect first constructs her blueprint of a house in her mind. Deontology is an ethical theory that says actions are good or bad according to a clear set of rules. Its name comes from the Greek word deon, meaning duty. Actions that align with these rules are ethical, while actions that don't aren't. This ethical theory is most closely associated with German philosopher Immanuel Kant. His work on personhood is an example of deontology in practice. Kant believed the ability to use reason was that define a person. From an ethical perspective, personhood creates a range of rights and obligations because every person has inherently dignity, something that is fundamental to and is held in equal measure by each and every person. This dignity creates an ethical line in the sand that prevents us from acting in certain ways either toward other people or toward ourselves, because we have dignity as well. Most importantly, Kant argues that we may never treat a person merely as means to an end, never just a resource or instrument.
As far as we know, animals only act according to impulses based on their natural instinct. Thus, animals act with immediacy, from Latin I plus medius or no middle, with nothing that intervenes between the impulse and the action. They do not and cannot deliberate on their actions. In fact, we may say that animals do not act, they only react to their external surrounding and external impulses. To consider the rational will is to point out the difference between animals and persons. On one hand, animals are a sentient organism. Sentient meaning an organism has the ability to perceive and navigate its external environment. Insofar as dogs and carabaos are sentient organisms, we do not see them bumping into the trees and walls unless their senses are weak. Animals constantly interact with their surroundings. This is also true as humans. We are also sentient, thus both animals and persons interact in and with the world, reacting to external stimuli and internal impulses to survive and thrive. On the other hand, people are also rational. Rationality consists of the mental faculty to construct ideas and thoughts that are beyond our immediate surroundings. This is the capacity to mental abstraction which arises from the operations of the faculty of reason. Thus, we do not only have the capacity to imagine and construct mental image, but we also have the ability to act on, to enact and make real thus mental image. This ability to enact our thoughts is the basis for the rational will. The rational will refers to the faculty to intervene in the world, to act in a manner that is consistent with our reason. As far as we know, animals only act according to impulses based on their natural instinct. That animals act with immediacy or no middle, with nothing and intervenes between the impulse and the action. They do not and cannot deliberate on their actions. In fact, we may say that animals do not act, they only react to their external surroundings and internal impulses. In contrast, we humans have reason which intervenes between impulse and act. We have the ability to stop and think about what we are doing to evaluate our actions. According to principles simply stated, we are not only reacting to our surroundings and internal impulse but are also conceiving of ways to act according to certain rational principles. Hence, to act according to a duty is especially human experience. Animal, if it's true that they do not possess the faculty of rational will, cannot conceive of having duties. This is the starting point of deontology. We may claim that as long as we have the rationality, there will always be the tension between our base impulse and our rational will. Deontological ethics holds that at least some acts are morally obligatory regardless of their consequence for human welfare. Descriptive of such ethics are such expressions as duty or duty's sake. Virtue is its own reward, and let justice be done to heavens and fall.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmate. What is autonomy? Can't claim that our properly of rational will be autonomy. AK 440, which is the opposite of heteronomy. These three Greek words heteros and nomos. We get autonomy, heteros, and nomos to heteronomy. Thirdly, states autonomy. May dalawang ibig sabihin ang autonomy. Ito ang tinatawag nating self-law or di kaya self-restating. And heteronomy, ang heteronomy naman ay, ang tawag dito ay another law. Next slide. Example number 1. Here Ryan, a mother tell her boy, go brush your teeth now or else your teeth will rot. Come on now, Lisa. A father tell his daughter, if you brush your teeth in 5 minutes, I will let you play your computer game tonight. And in these cases of Ryan and Lisa, they are autonomous, certain not as their parents, as one that legislate the principle the children should brush their teeth before they go to the bed, and in pros, such as principle by using threat or incentive. Next slide. The description of autonomy is usually when we think of someone being subject to the law, we usually think of an enforcing authority figure that uses him power to control the subject into the complying his will. Image policeman who apprehends a suspect criminal by forcing him on the ground and putting handcuffs on his doors. Incidentally, subject comes from the Latin word sub, under the jakar to throw. When combined, the two words refer to the which throw and brought under something. The will must comply with the law, which is authority figure. Next slide. The will must give the law itself. Can't deserve autonomy as well give that subject or principle or the law. Example of autonomy. Autonomy is the state of being governing or having ability to make one's own decision independently or internal control. Thank you.
That's all for our topic. Thank you.